You know what they say about resilience? The human capacity for burden is far more stronger than you'd ever think. It's like a bamboo. So keep trying, and you definitely get to your destination. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief. I am Bukola Koka. It promises to be super exciting this morning, but I never do it alone. I have my guys, my friends. Hi, Jeffrey and Kadi.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm looking at the shine. That's what we call it. It's called shine.
Well,
right?
it comes
Okay.
with the package, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, women have their ways with shine, as you call it.
Okay. You like it or not, Jeffrey?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm just looking at it.
Oh, praise God.
Oh. Good morning and
Jeffrey.
welcome to the program. I have only one thing to say. It's not a complaint. It's just be kind to someone, okay? There's a lot going on around the world, around the country, around your community. All you need to do is to pay attention. Trust me, you may not be able to reach out to everybody, including family members. You may not be able to touch everyone in the family. But as much as lies within your power, please be kind to someone. That's my message for this morning.
There you go. So it's not just Thoughtful Thursday, it's now Kindness Thursday. Welcome to the show. I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Maybe the K that starts my name is for kindness, guys.
Maybe. And some people can testify, right?
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I like that.
So, what do we have this morning?
Well, so we've welcomed our very own chess master, Tunde Okoya. He's back in Nigeria. You remember Tunde Okoya was smack in the middle of Times Square last week, squaring up against different opponents to break the world record for the longest chess marathon. It was grueling. I mean, hearing that he was sneezing blood before he started the game, but he still went ahead. He had, you know, stomach poisoning. He didn't take food and the rest. But there you see, that is the face of a warrior, a man who is now seen as a symbol of inspiration for Nigerians, and particularly for the children who he was raising those funds for. More than $100,000 he raised at the end of the day. And it's good to see how he's been welcomed now by the governor of Lagos State, Governor Sanwo-Olu. Beautiful to see, guys.
And it was indeed beautiful to see his arrival at the airport. You know, it was a carnival of sorts. You know, a lot of praise singing and dancing in honor of an individual who is not just now a symbol of inspiration, but a symbol of the true Nigerian spirit. I keep emphasizing that what a Nigerian truly represents. One who would face up a challenge, take it up, and become a global icon. The way he, you know, went at it during that 60-hour marathon. And that place became an entrepot for Nigerians all over the, I believe, Washington, D.C. now, who converged and cheered him on. That's what Nigeria truly stands for. And, you know, that could change. It has a potential of changing the narrative about who Nigerians are, about the green passport. You know, so kudos to our own chess master, Tunde Okoya, for doing Nigeria proud. And, you know, that reminds me of all the other Nigerians who are taking up big challenges, doing what no one has ever attempted. Belumi Nubi, Coach Dre, who swam the entire length of Third Mainland Bridge, and the young individual who's traveling 54 African countries, who's on that trip right now as we speak. So that's resilience, and that's where we started off from.
I think young people are the vanguard of repositioning our image across the world. We could go way back, besides the names we've mentioned of how young people are doing their bit within their own little corner to transform the country and put that beautiful, lovely image of resilience. And I think the government should take a lead from these young people so that there is a coordinated approach at repositioning you know, our fortunes, our image as a country, as a people. We congratulate Tunde. We're going to host him as soon as he's stable enough and strong enough to come to the studio and have a chat with us on how he was able to do this. But when you hear what he had to go through before and during this whole marathon, you will know that this guy, he really made up his mind that he's going to do this. Someone said, if the freedom you seek is a freedom from responsibility, you will never be free. So young people are taking responsibility for themselves, for their future, for all of this. Let's remember the intent and the purpose of this particular marathon. It's not just to break a record. It wants to raise $1 million so you can help him achieve that dream, because it's for the children across Africa whom he's using chess to pull out of those slums and get them into classes so that they can be better positioned for themselves, because education is a leverage with which we can balance out the rich and the poor at the end of the day. So if you give them the chance, they will definitely do what they know how to do best. Guys?
Well,
yes, indeed.
I just want to mention this. A lot of people are saying, what is it with Nigerians and breaking records? I saw a young lady breaking a record for the longest interview. There's a young man right now in the nation's capital, Abuja, who's trying to break a world record attempt or make an attempt for most fast food restaurants visited in a day. And the goal is to visit 120 fast food restaurants. His name Brian Wana. He's doing this in the nation's capital, Abuja, and he's doing it on foot. So I think he's going from, is it Gwarimpa to part of the...
Someone said Nigerians will soon tear that book of records.
So does that include eating in all the fast food restaurants?
Eating in all of the restaurants, and it's crazy when you think about it, really. And he actually has a lot of people following him. I understand he went through some cramps, but the point is, you can talk about, oh, why are they trying to break records? But you can also talk about how these young Nigerians are literally cleaning up the image of Nigeria and putting it out there. That's what they are doing. So we need to encourage them. We need to give them kudos. We can talk about people who are dragging that image in the mud, but more importantly, let's talk about the people who are putting that image right where it ought to be. So to all of the young Nigerians doing all of these great things, in fact, we cannot mention all of your names. We'd say thank you.
There are loads of them. There are some people doing a longest read. I know one boy in Akwa Ibom did longest read. Another one is about to break that record again. So Nigerians are setting and breaking their own record. We can go way back to Hilda Bassi. I think there's a young guy, I don't know his name, but when that incident happened, when the Hilda Bassi thing happened, he came out, I think he had like 6 records or so. Wow. 6.
Yeah, with juggling football, right?
I can't remember what
I think it's a
doing,
football juggler.
There are loads and loads of Nigerians doing big things. And thanks to the Guinness Book of World Record giving us the opportunity to make it as loud as possible.
Yeah. So Gwarimpa to, I think it's Gwarimpa to Maitama. That's what Brian plans to do.
Well, we encourage Brian to tie a good cause to this challenge of most restaurants visited, you know, not just visiting restaurants to eat, but tie a good cause to it, just as Sunday Onokoya has tied a good cause to his. Well, that's a long list, and I'm sure that if we went back into history in time, we'll find some Nigerians who have done some really achieved great feats as well. So if you're about to give up this morning, just look at the life story of Tunde Onokoya in the first place. You know, it was not just bright lights. He didn't start with these bright lights. He started from a very low place, and he's been able to walk through, you know, that challenge, walk through the journey, and achieve this great feat. So be inspired and keep at your own good cause. So what do we have this morning, guys?
You tell us.
Yes, so we're starting with, it's World Malaria Day, so time to revisit the malaria conversation, and starting with, according to the World Health Organization, Nigeria accounts for 27% of the 233 million cases reported on the African continent, and 31%, that's a huge figure, of global malaria deaths in 2022. But there's cheering news in the fight against malaria. Let's explore the possibilities of a malaria-free Nigeria and how to tackle the attitudes that may stand in the way of an effective immunization coverage, especially with the potential of that approval of the malaria vaccine.
That's not all. We're going to be talking about genetically modified, all of these things that we both have in food and all of that. Do you know that Nigeria is approved for commercialization 4 of the 33 genetically modified foods, crops globally, including maize, cowpea, cotton, soybean? What are the implications of this approval for human health and even the environment right here in our country, when the quest for answers to arm you and help you with the nutrition choices? So, hey, it's right here with us. What does this mean? How will it impact and affect us? We'll find out on the show.
There you go. So we can have crops and food genetically modified, but some will also tell you there are people who have some genetic modification, particularly with the good looks which they have. And they often say that good looks comes essentially with a huge demand and responsibility, particularly for thespians and other categories of artists in the Nigerian entertainment industry. But is that the case for this budding actor who's a self-styled 3-in-1 entertainer? That's a big question. Well, it promises to be an interesting time out with Michael Ifeanyi. There you go. But hey, you don't want to miss this, absolutely. So stay with us this morning.
So from the celebration of our chess master to Michael Ifeanyi, and indeed the conversation of malaria, there's a huge, a long array of, topics that you can comment on GMO as well. How can you recognize genetically modified organisms from naturally grown crops? So there's a long list of talking points that you can, engage with us on this morning. So we urge you to start posting already. X, Facebook, Instagram, and you can also send your videos. Yes, that number, our fellowship, hand of fellowship, will be shown on your screen shortly. You can also send your questions and your comments. Yes, Kadi?
I was going to ask, what record are you breaking today? Let's break good records. Brian, by the way, he's tied his record to showcasing Nigerian food. Right, so that's the goal, showcase Nigerian food and basically show it to the world. So it's good to see people tying their record-breaking attempts to good causes. So fantastic there.
So you may want to talk about that young Nigerian who's visiting restaurants and eating. I wonder how he's going to survive it. All restaurants, I believe, in Abuja.
Well, I think 100 and something, but he's going to walk from Gwarinpa to Maitama, and he's going to eat across those restaurants.
That'll make for some good talking points this morning. So after this time out, we'll be back with the top stories. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Morning Brief, and we're starting with the judiciary as we look into the top stories this morning in what appears an acknowledgement that many Nigerians lack access to justice delivery. President Bola Tinubu is calling on the judiciary to reform and restore its integrity and public trust. President Tinubu is urging that arm of government to seek new directions and focus on creating a new justice system that will respond to the needs of Nigerians. The president gave this challenge to judicial officers at the National Judicial Summit in Abuja, where he was represented by the Vice President Kashim Shettima.
The policy seeks to promote and protect human rights and access to justice, which are essential features of a functional justice system. It proposes critical and sustainable interventions in the implementation of statutory provisions, encouraging protection of human rights and access to justice. The quest for justice should not be a privilege reserved for the few, but a right accessible to all, regardless of their circumstances. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to embark on a journey of comprehensive reform to ensure that justice is not only dispensed, but also perceived to be dispensed fairly and impartially.
The impact of their reform efforts should be visible in terms of improved access to justice, strengthen integrity of justice sector institutions, increase timeliness and quality of justice delivery, accountability, and transparency of the system.
And to aviation matters, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, has suspended the Air Operator Certificate of Dana Air following the runway excursion involving its MD-82 aircraft at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport yesterday, April the 23rd. The decision comes after the Minister of Aviation, Mr. Festus Keyamo, asked the agency to initiate the suspension of the airline's fleet until a comprehensive audit is conducted on the airline. In an interview with Channels Television, the acting director of NCAA, Mr. Chris Najomo, explained that the NCAA has initiated an in-house compliance assessment to ascertain the cause of the incident, while Dana Airline has been ordered to refund monies to all respective passengers.
You may recall that yesterday morning at about 8:25 a.m., a Dana from Abuja to Lagos with 83 passengers and 6 crew members landed 18 left in Lagos and skidded off after landing into the grassy area. However, because of what the occurrences has been happening with Dana, this is not the first time, it's not the second time, and for us to do our purview, I had to, of course, first of all, suspend the AOC of Dana so that they will carry out audits, safety audits on the airline, safety audit, and also carry out financial health audit and a systemic audit to make sure that why is this happening all the time. I cannot say per se what the problem is right now because investigation is still going on. And until that investigation comes out, we cannot pinpoint what has happened. So I cannot preempt that. The airline needs to refund the passengers. But you know our policy for refund, if you buy your tickets online, it takes 2 weeks. So passengers will have to wait. That's what our provisions and that's what the law says, regulations, it will take 2 weeks. So passengers should be aware that it might take 2 weeks for them to be refunded. Some passengers will be refunded, some will be, they'll probably get in contact with some other airlines there where they can rebook them and do the needful.
And now to security matters, starting in the southeast, where it seems the days of the indigenous people of Biafra may just be numbered. This is as the military is assuring residents that troops of Operation Udoka are committed to providing adequate and effective security for all law-abiding citizens. The General Officer commanding 82 Division of the Nigerian Army, Major General Hassan Dada, who is also the force commander of Operation Udoka, described the proscribed IPOB as a group of persons who do not mean well for the people of the region. He was speaking in Enugu when he hosted some defense correspondents on operational tour to the southeast.
If you look at the number of people that have been kidnapped, ransoms paid, people killed, a good number of it from the statistics available shows they are actually from the southeast. So what fight are we really talking about? And we will leave no stone unturned to make sure that we restore the glory the Southeast Nigeria is known for.
Well, bandits have killed at least 3 people and abducted 8 others during a fresh attack on a village in Biruningwari local government area of Kaduna State. This comes just 5 days after 23 people were killed by bandits at Anguandonko community in the eastern part of Biruningwari local government. The police authorities and the state government are yet to comment on this incident, but the Secretary General of Biruningwari Emirates Progressive Union, Beppu Abdurrashid Abrashi, told Channels Television that the bandits had camped at a nearby spot on Monday night to perfect their operation, after which they attacked the village at about 3 p.m. on Tuesday. Away from security now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has filed a notice of withdrawal to discontinue an appeal against an order of a Kogi High Court restraining it from arresting the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahya Bello. In the notice filed on April the 22nd, the EFCC said the withdrawal is predicated on the fact that events have overtaken the appeal. The commission also admits that the appeal was filed out of time allowed by law. And to politics now. In Rivers State, 2 commissioners redeployed to new ministries following a minor cabinet reshuffle by Governor Simlai Fubara have resigned their positions. The first to announce his resignation was former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Professor Zacchaeus Andango, who explained that he chose to leave the government to preserve his reputation, citing interference with his duties as the Attorney General. He alleges that the governor had directed him not to defend or oppose suits filed against the Office of the Attorney General and the government of Rivers State by individuals sponsored by the state government. He also rejected his redeployment as Commissioner for Special Duties and wished Governor Fubara's administration well. Hours after the resignation of Mr. Adango, another commissioner, Mr. Isaac Kamalu, also exited the cabinet. Also, in a letter to the secretary to the Rivers State government, Mr. Tami Danagogo, Mr. Kamalu rejected his redeployment from the Finance Ministry to the Ministry of Employment Generation and Economic Empowerment. Mr. Kamalu cited the absence of peace in Rivers State despite the peace pact mediated by the president last December. President Bola Tinubu has approved the takeoff of the first phase of the Consumer Credit Scheme to facilitate the purchase of houses and cars by working Nigerians. In a statement on Wednesday, presidential spokesman Ajuri Ngelale said the Consumer Credit Scheme will enhance the quality of life of citizens by allowing them access to goods and services upfront, paying responsibly over time. The statement reads in part, it facilitates crucial purchases such as homes, vehicles, education and healthcare essential for ongoing stability to pursue their aspirations. Through responsible repayment, individuals build credit histories, unlocking more opportunities for a better life. Now, outside our shores, U.S. President Joe Biden has signed a $95 billion package of aid for Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan. The president said after signing the bill into law, it's going to make America safer and it will also make the world safer. The president said the U.S. would right away send fresh weapons and equipment to Ukraine to help Kyiv fend off Russian advances. He spoke a day after the U.S. Senate approved the aid package following months of congressional gridlock. And in sports news, 22-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal is not sure if he will be able to play at next month's French Open as he continues his comeback from injury at the Madrid Open on Thursday. The 37-year-old, a 22-time Grand Slam champion, said he is far from being in top form and that he is only playing against 16-year-old American Darwin Blanche in his first round match in Madrid as a personal sacrifice. Nadal, a record 14-time winner at Roland Garros and 5-time champion in Madrid, lost to Alex de Minaur in the second round in Barcelona last week in just his second tournament in 15 months after having hip surgery last summer. And here's wishing Nadal quick recovery so he'll be able to return to the courts. But in the meantime, what are some of your thoughts to the big stories? Jeffrey joins me now for a review of the conversation. Hello, Jeffrey.
Yeah, Bukola, loads, as always. Our responsibility right here is to track all of those big stories. And we'll get started with the story you read about Dana Airline. And the federal government suspended Dana operations. So you broke it down with the story you read about how it did skid off the runway. And
that was 2 days ago, not
2 days ago, yes.
Yesterday.
I remember. So that's 48 hours ago. So Kachio says, excellent move by the minister. We must ensure the safety of air passengers at all times. So.
And this next one is from Ben Samuel, who says, kudos to the aviation ministry. Well, that's just it from Ben Samuel.
Yeah, he actually added safety first.
Yeah, safety first.
All right, this is coming from Joshua Omeza. He says, please, what happens to Dana's flight ticket holders and are scheduled to travel in the week?
Well, I guess
the ministry will answer that.
The acting director of the NCA has responded to that, saying that they will be refunded. All prospective passengers would be refunded, and that's cheery news.
Cheery news,
following the inconvenience that they experienced after that excursion on the runway. Sometimes,
if you want to stretch it further and not be Oliver Twist, it's not just the money being refunded. The opportunities being missed. How do we make up for that? It's also a loss for the people involved. Merchant of Peace says, kindly extend your standard criteria to other airlines to avoid future occurrences. Good development, keep it up.
And from that one on to the next talking point this morning. And this time around, you're talking about the activities of the EFCC, specifically the revelation, the latest allegation that the former CBN governor authorized the printing of 684.5 million naira using 18.9 billion naira. Let's emphasize that it's just an allegation, and the CBN governor is still undergoing trial for a myriad of charges, really. So he remains innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely. That's what the law says, presumption of innocence, until so the court of competent jurisdiction can pronounce you guilty. Daniel Peter says, waiting be this while I will CBN man, they print money rich. Now say take they share money up and down.
Up and down.
Oh, is it up and down?
Up and down.
Okay.
You're the worry boy now.
No.
The Port Harcourt
It's
boy.
not up and down, it's up and down. Actually, it's not up and down.
Oh.
Actually, yeah. Like saying confetti. Okay, that reminds me of something. Waiting 684 million to do with 18.9. I didn't know pidgin is this hard to read. Then suppose the rest of Mayfield and make you explain this matter well. Well, he's under investigations. He's in trial. The trial is on. So let's say again, it's all about. It's an allegation. He's not been proven guilty until that pronouncement comes from the court. He's still innocent.
Okay, so this next one, pretty long, is from Eraser, but I'll try to summarize it. Eraser says, printing and minting company looking at figures and asking themselves if they really quoted that. The news will be a shocker to who is not a Nigerian citizen, but will be well digested by citizens as a regular notification of Lamba without action. Please, Jeffrey, help me out. What's Lamba again?
I don't know how to translate it. It's just Lamba.
Okay. But the summary of what he's saying is that I know we suffered just to get access to hard currency during this time and ended up buying 1,000 naira for 1,200. Should we blame just him or others who were involved in the decision making, especially when he didn't conclude the thoughts? Maybe he's trying to infer here.
Yeah, I remember that period when, is it cash? No, redesign. I was at the immigration office and, oh boy, when you, not at the office itself, the area, when you want to collect money from POS, the POS operators, they became super big boys that period. So everybody can remember that incident last year.
Oh, when you were buying, when we were buying 40,000 naira for 70,000 naira just because you needed cash desperately.
Just difficult.
And Jeffrey, do you know that
7,000 naira?
We have hardly recovered from that period because now cash is scarce. The POS operators are making, huge sums of money with the second exchange rate that we have in Nigeria. You're buying 20,000 naira now for 400 naira. Just because when you visit the ATMs, there's hardly ever cash. The CBN should look into that as well.
Okay, Collins Opara X says this blatant misuse of funds is unacceptable and further highlights, I need to read from here, the need for accountability and transparency in our financial institutions and government. Emefiele must be held accountable for his actions and justice must be served swiftly. All right, still an allegation. And
this next one is from Ihene to Emmanuel, who says, or more, if we subtract the money they printed, 684.5 million naira, from the money they used, 18.9 billion, the difference is 18.2 billion. That's a pretty big gap between the two numbers.
Well, we'll find out eventually when the court hearing happens, and Emefiele and his counsel and his lawyers will defend themselves. But we've seen worse, well, I say worse things. We've seen funny things in the country happen. We've seen snakes swallowing money and all kinds of things happening. It's embarrassing for us as Nigerians. That is not who we are. These are just a poor representation of who we are. So every country has their own class of those kind of people. So that's not who we are, we must say. But funny things happen across sector. EFCC withdraws appeal against order restraining Yahaya Bello's arrest.
So go ahead with the first one.
All right, so Gabriel Jayola says, now EFCC is making sense. Now let them face the substance of the case and prepare well before arraignment, less of media brouhaha from them all. All the best, that's what he said. Yeah,
and this next one is from Muhammad in Yamida, who says, Nigerians are interested in the case. EFCC appealed against Kogi State High Court ruling, which set ex-governor Yahaya Bello free from them. EFCC needs to continue the challenge of such verdict at appeal court if they're sure, not withdrawing the case just like that.
Yeah, so for context, people have said EFCC should stop media trial and all of that, but for context, so this is how the case went. The Kogi State governor, former Kogi State governor, went to the Kogi State High Court and said, my rights, I'm being harassed, protect me, and it was granted an interim injunction. The EFCC appealed that injunction, sought for stay of execution, eventually sought leave of court That was to be heard. That has not been heard. But at the Federal High Court, they instituted a criminal case against him of the over 80 billion, which was heard, I think, yesterday also. Now, what is going on is that we have not even gotten to the substantive issue. The postponement or the adjournment to 20th is to the effect that this argument as to whether arrest, no arrest, whether it's right, all of that will be decided, and they will see whether they can arraign him that particular day.
And at
So
that last
2 issues.
court date, I recall that the counsel to the FCC had said that it would withdraw the warrant of arrest if the former governor will be present in court. So I guess it just followed up with it.
For the lawyers, I guess, because it's a criminal case, he has to come plea. I don't know whether it can be represented by a lawyer when it comes to accepting, making his plea and all of that. MultiChoice announces fresh increases in prices of DSTV Go TV packages. Wow. So, Ajibola Adewale says, this company is taking advantage of the system because they know that we don't have any indigenous company to rival them for their incessant increase in their subscription. No pay-as-you-view package, even when there's no light. They are less concerned.
But how is Nigeria positioning, to take up market share, as Jeffrey always says, in that space? What happened to digitization, the distribution of set-top boxes, to all Nigerians, and even in that, service as well. If you look critically at what is offered, is it competitive enough to, meet what DSTV has been offering Nigerians over the years? DSTV will continue to...
it's almost like a monopoly.
Run the monopoly.
Because at the end of the day, the ones that have tried in our country have not been able to beat them to the game.
Exactly.
So, you have the next one.
This next one is from Amino Aliu, who says, I have dumped them for almost 8 months now. I can't handle the high cost of subs plus buying fuel to enjoy it, else it will amount to wastages. Using an app from my phone that gives me access to sports, all leagues. The government policies lead to increment in production cost as well. So those are the realities.
So DSTV will say our cost of production has not increased. So it's reflective of what is happening in the economy and all of that. But I think if we have more players in this space, it will crash as much as possible. So I think we need more players in that space.
Absolutely.
That's the truth. We need more players because if we don't have more players, these guys, it's business for them. If they feel that they need to match up their cost so that they can make revenue or make profit, that's what they will do. Phenomenon says, despite repetitive programs, recycling documentaries, some have watched over 8 times in the last 3 years, yet subscription keeps increasing. Yet in some documentaries you show every time. Anyway, now smart TV all the way now.
So you have a choice of content. Okay, this next one is from The Voice, who says, we call government attention to look into this multi-choice matter and do something. I beg. It's too much. Now every year they increase their price twice. As the country be like this, where the money to sub, later them go say now government they overtask them. That's why them increase price twice yearly. It's too much.
I think what the people are actually asking for is pay per view per se. Like if you don't make calls on your credit, it will remain there. There are other things as well that if you don't use, it remains there as well. But for these ones, even for streaming platforms, you have a monthly subscription. That's their model for making money and all of that. So let's see how it plays out.
When the discos withdraw their service temporarily, as they always do, or in an elongated manner, then your subscription for your DSTV wastes. Well, right. That's a sad reality.
Gabriel Isaiah says DSTV should be in the business if they are ready to make it pay as you go. With this fuel price and lack of light, Nigerians should not be compelled to waste money like this. The increase is expected, but they should be charging on pay-as-you-go. That's what we're talking about. So he called on the House of Representatives, and I know they've tried to sort this thing out, but it's not been working. All right.
And so this next one is about passengers overpowering bandits in Zamfara.
Wow.
They killed one and seized 2 AK-47 rifles. That's some courage there.
That's some bravery.
Bravery. Yeah, and this first reaction is from Ike Chukwu Kinsley, who says, first time in history, ordinary people take this kind of action. It's time federal government legalized using guns by individuals, farmers, and travelers, especially in the north, for self-defense.
I'm grateful they are alive because it's instinct. It's instinct that they have to, because they are not sure, are these guys going to kill me? Because I've been robbed before. One gun to my face, the other to my ear, and my instinct told me they are just robbers. Perhaps if they had said, if something had told me they want to kill me or something, you know, so I'm happy they responded to their instinct, and it worked out. That none of them died. They even had to, you know, take out one guy. Tessie says passengers of applying bandits in Zamfara and seizing their rifle is a rare occurrence. Those passengers probably had some sort of special training to have summoned courage to fight. Nevertheless, legalizing carrying of firearms in Nigeria is still not the way forward. So, hey, that's a perspective. Some say for, some say against. That debate will keep going on, but at the end of the day, we just want a safe country, all of us.
Absolutely. And we hope that the government rises to the challenge. So that's it for a review of some of your talking points about the big stories. We're starting off with the first leg of our conversation this morning on the World Malaria Day, the prospects and challenges having of Nigeria-free malaria. So join us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's talk malaria and World Malaria Day, which is today. We're being joined in the program by the Commissioner for Health in your state, Dr. Oluwaseremi Ajetomobi. She joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, let's get straight to business. When you look at the numbers in terms of deaths and cases in their millions across sub-Saharan Africa, which Africa is high burdened when it comes to this issue, one wonders why the continent is so high burdened, bringing it down to Nigeria, when it's a primary healthcare issue.
Thank you very much. The malaria burden, malaria itself is a global disease, and it's also a life-threatening disease as well. And the burden is high because a lot of things are not in place, particularly in our people. You know, there are some myths against malaria. People feel that it's only children that are affected by malaria, whereas everybody can have malaria. People feel that when you have malaria once, you cannot have it again, whereas you can have it again because what causes it is in our environment, the Plasmodium protozoa. And also we need to create awareness now for malaria, letting people to know the high burden that we have, the life-threatening situations, the fact that if malaria occurs and is not treated on time, it can progress to life-threatening conditions which can end lives. So we need to create more awareness, and that's why the 2024 World Malaria Day, the theme is accelerating the fight against malaria for a more equitable world. Because we find out that too many people, they miss out on ways to assess, either to detect, to prevent, or even assess treatment when it comes to malaria issues. And who are these set of people? We have the vulnerable, the children under 5, pregnant women, those in the IDP camps, the migrants, all those people that they are facing high degree of poverty, and also the vulnerables, those that are excluded by virtue of what happened to them. These people do not have access to the hospitals, access to care, and to get treated even when they have malaria. So the thing now is that everybody is now creating an awareness to fight this body so that we can have malaria-free country or malaria-free state. So we are bringing it out like is a kind of community awareness, is a kind of community engagement, community participation, bringing in our faith leaders, the imams, the clergies, even in our schools, to teach them on how to recognize these symptoms. And when the symptoms occur, what are the necessary things that they need to do so that they can get treated? Recognizing the symptoms will mean that, okay, anybody that you find having fever, and though not all fever is malaria, but at least when you have fever, intermittent fever means that, okay, the child is free this morning. When it's getting towards evening, the child begins to run fever. Right. So those are intermittent fever. But a child is presenting with fever, at least we should have, as part of our diagnosis or as part of our suspicion, malaria. And when that occurs, coupled with the fact that the child is not eating well, it's having a kind of vomiting or wants to vomit, and maybe complaining of headache, we all should take that particular child to the health facilities around us. Primary health care, just as you said. Primary health care is closer to us. And for example, in Oyo State now, the governor of Oyo State, Engineer Seyi Makinde, has refurbished over 211 primary health care facilities. Right. And they are equipped with things that they can use to diagnose malaria. For example, we can diagnose malaria using rapid diagnostic test, which is a point of care test. And also we can use microscopy. We don't have too many microscopists, but we have RDTs around in all the primary healthcare centers, right, where people can go to and they can get tested. And when they are tested and it's positive, they have drugs, even at the primary healthcare centers, given to them free of charge. The testing is free and the drugs are also free.
Well, doctor, you know, there's the there's what is ought to be, right? The ideal situation, and then there is the reality on ground. And particularly for your state, I remember as far back as 15, 20 years ago, at the University College Hospital, so there's this segment of the hospital that does a lot of research about malaria, and I remember spending time there, and you see day in, day out, women, children coming in, you know, with malaria, some of them acute. Now, I don't know how far that has yielded, particularly research into that has yielded results, but it looks like there's still a lot of prevalence. As you said, your state is trying to beat that, have zero, you know, malaria in the state. So speak to us about why it has been tough to really, you said there's a perception issue and the rest, maybe cultural as well. Why has it really been tough to, you know, get the information down? Because the way you sound now, it sounds really easy, but when you get to those areas, and I don't want to mention those rural areas, some of them are notorious for that, the case is quite different. So have you been able to find out what exactly is responsible for that?
Yes, in the state now, the prevalence has reduced. We have like 21% prevalence of malaria in the state now. We have out-to-reach areas, and out-to-reach areas, they are security compromised. So many a times, accessing those areas becomes difficult. And what we do now, when we want to access the areas, is to have some security personnel following the people that will go there, so that with that, we are rest assured that whatever is there, they will handle the situation. That is number one, how to reach areas. These people, they don't have access even to listen to radio or to watch televisions, so they don't even know what is going on. The ways of preventing it, they don't know. And we have levels of prevention. One of the levels of prevention is health promotion. Health promotion, as we are doing now, you can engage, you can give information, you can educate people. Some of these people, they don't have access to all these facilities. So we have to go to them to be able to preach the gospel and say, okay, these are the things that you should do. Then culturally, people like that stay in poorest areas where you can find dirty environments, bushes around them, that we need to tell them to clear the bushes, to take care of their surroundings, and also hand to them insecticide treated nets as a way of vector control for them. So those have been the challenges over the years. You want to do it, and people are afraid of going to those areas because of security challenges. But we are overcoming that in the state gradually.
Okay, so speak to us now about some misconceptions, if I could call it that. So you go to the hospital because you're ill, and you get tested. They tell you there's +1+, 2+ malaria, and the rest. And it's been said that, well, there's always malaria in the body, and I've heard that before, that there's always a parasite in the body. So from time to time, it just undulates. So sometimes, if your immunity drops, it will increase. If you have good immunity, you will not experience it. Some other people have said, well, it's when you get bitten by, you know, a malaria parasite carrying mosquito that you get infected, and it will show 3 weeks after. But clearly, it looks like for a lot of people, whatever happens, it's always malaria. So speak to us. Is there always malaria in the body? So what you just see is a manifestation of what's been there, or it's as a result of new bites per time?
Thank you very much. We know we have different species of Plasmodium protozoa that causes malaria. We have the one that we call P. falciparum. And that one, the incubation period is just between 7 to 30 days. And it's preventable, it's curable. It does not have what we call like a dormant phase in the liver, whereby it can persist for a longer time, and people can get infected and have the malaria again. So the fact that you go to the hospital, you get tested, and they pick positive malaria parasite, and you are treated at that particular instance. If it's P. falciparum, it does not have a dormant phase, so there's nothing like relapse, except the malaria is not properly treated. But we have other species, like P. malaria, P. vivax, that they have dormant liver phase, and that one can persist for 2 to 3 years. So those ones are the ones that are called relapsing fever. But for P. falciparum, which is global, which is throughout all the tropical regions, It does not have a dormant phase and does not cause relapsing fever. The only thing is that probably the person is not well treated. And because it's not well treated, the parasite still remains in the bloodstream. And that's why you see people saying they have malaria. The notion around us is that all the fevers is malaria, whereas it is not. And that's why we need to get tested. The teaching now is that any fever, you test it for malaria, because a lot of things can present with fever as the symptoms, and it may not necessarily be malaria. So it's not all fever that is malaria. And the people should know that they need to get tested. Once you are tested by RDT and it's positive, you are likely sure that even microscopy, which is the gold standard, will also be positive. But once it's negative and the person has symptoms of malaria, the classical symptoms of malaria, then one can say to that person, go and do microscopy. And if the microscopy is positive, the person gets tested. And nowadays, we talk of artemisinin-based combination therapy. It's not monotherapy again, like use of chloroquine or use of fancida. So many times people go self-medication. They will say they want to take chloroquine or they want to take fancida, and that one may not even touch the parasite at all. So they may come back to say that every time they are testing, they are having malaria because it's not well treated. Those are the misconceptions around it.
Speaking of misconceptions, we'll get to that as, they're affected by attitudes. But the good part is that there is hope for, overcoming the malaria challenge with the RTSS vaccine, which we gather has already gotten to some African countries, but Nigeria has been excluded due to some reasons. But getting to misconceptions now, there has been talk about, our inability to achieve universal immunization coverage because of attitudes to vaccines. Peradventure, the malaria vaccines gets to Nigeria sooner than later. What attitudes, yet again, do you find that could affect, taking full advantage of this malaria vaccine to defeating this public health challenge?
Thank you very much. The usual thing that will happen is this vaccine hesitancy. People may want to hesitate and say, okay, let's see those that are taking it, what will happen to them? And if nothing happens to them, they may likely change their mind. So vaccine hesitancy is one of the things that we could experience. But the way to go around it is just community sensitization, community awareness, letting them to know the burden of malaria, the symptoms of malaria, and the way that the vaccine will be included in the routine immunization of children. And probably will be taken from 5 months of age, and the doses will be spread out like that. But usually there may be vaccine hesitancy, and a lot of cultural interplay may come in, because people will say, don't go, if they give you something like this will happen. But with media engagement, with community sensitization, with community engagement, involving our faith leaders, the imams, the clergy, preaching it in the church, preaching it in the mosque, I'm sure we are going to get around it. And anybody that has witnessed we have what we call mild symptoms of malaria, and we have life-threatening symptoms. So just to say that we have what we call uncomplicated malaria and severe malaria. Now, for those that have had children with severe malaria and coming down with complications like the child has attained some developmental milestones, but because of severe malaria or cerebral malaria, for example, the child regresses from the developmental milestones that the child has attained before. Or the child has what we call cortical blindness as a result of cerebral malaria. So all those ones can be an example to people to say that if you don't treat this thing, these are the complications. And when people see complications, they see it themselves, they'll be able to change the attitude.
So let's stay with the issue of the vaccine. I'm a bit curious, because when you look at the R21 matrix M malaria vaccine that Gavi is proposing, you can see that it was developed by the Oxford University or University of Oxford and manufactured and scaled up by Serum Institute in India. It's worrying and disturbing to see, which is why this hesitancy is a challenge. Africa is high burden. Nigeria is part of Africa, and we're high burden as a continent. Is this a problem? The reason I'm asking this is more of a political question, but you're a commissioner, so you understand the politics around this. Is it a problem of lack of value for human life, or what exactly is going on? Because If we're this high burden, why are we waiting for the global north to come to our rescue for things that impact us negatively?
Thank you very much. It's not because of lack of care, but you know, when it comes to development of vaccines, a lot of things are done at the background. It has to go through some form of clinical trials. They are going to test it to be sure that when they are given to human being, it's not going to cause, the harm will be less and the benefits will be high. So those are the things surrounding the vaccine. And more so, by the time it's coming, it's not going to be cheap. So they need to weigh the modes of operation, how to go about it, particularly because we know that this is a challenge among children under 5. And most times when it's coming like that, it has to be free, in quotes. And for that, a lot of things have to be put in place to be sure that we are ready for it. Not just that we get vaccines and at the end of the day, people are not getting it and we are wasting the vaccines. I think those are the issues around it.
Madam, my question is, we are the ones with the problem. Why are we waiting for the global north to solve our problem, which should be some level of emergency? Because you're talking about we have to be tested. We have universities. I read deliberately that it was developed by the University of Oxford and scaled up by an institute in India. What is Africa doing? You are the scientists in this space, because at the end of the day, we can't keep just waiting for people to lump things on us who are not high burden, which is part of the reason for this hesitancy. People are saying, you're not the one that has a problem, we have a problem. Why are you providing solution for us? So across board, you're going to see that hesitancy.
Yes, for the development of vaccines, you are talking of scientists, you are talking, and I'm sure for us to be seeing what we have today, the vaccine is the second one, apart from the 8301. And for them to have come down with a lot of things are coming to, a lot of things are gone that we can't see. And I'm sure for us in Nigeria, we have some malaria technical working group that are also working assiduously to be able to see that we can have this. But it's just that until you break the ground, you may not know what is going on. I think that's my answer for that.
Well, I just want to expand this a little bit more, because I know that there was a talk about a ban of styrofoam in your state. You're also, of course, part of those championing that. And we know that eventually what happens is the styrofoam and waste, they block drainage paths, which makes for stagnant water that breeds mosquitoes. And then, of course, the rest is history. It's quite simple, really. So speak to us about that particular ban, the enforcement, because I think this will also be vital to the fight against malaria, because we know how stagnant water is a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. So perhaps we can get some updates on that ban and the implementation.
In Oyo State, the governor has health as one of the cardinal pillars, and not just about the clinical symptoms alone, it's also about the environmental conditions of people. And right now, a lot of effort is in place to make sure that there's no drainage blockage by all these delts, all these styrofoams. If anyone picked now, is going to pay fines. So people are being encouraged to not to drop anything in the gutter, not to block the waterways, and also to put their waste in the appropriate place. And the education is ongoing too, as touching the use of styrofoam, because it's not easily degradable. And because of that, a lot of toxins is being released. And if such you block the drainage to really, they may cause pools of water, stagnated pools of water, which can aid the breeding of mosquitoes. And for that, the state government is doing a lot to make sure that we have surroundings clean in terms of hygiene and cleanliness. Waste are being put where they're supposed to put it. And anybody find culpable is sanctioned by way of fine. So we are doing that in the state now.
And as we wind down gradually, I'd like you to respond to yet another public health challenge, but which really is institutional in nature. I'm talking specifically about the concern about unwholesome reports that, you know, we usually read about, the University College Hospital, Ibadan. You probably say that it's a federal institution, but it's serving the state capital, 4 million residents, if I'm correct, you know, by the figures of the population in your state. Is there any intervention that the state government is provided such that the alleged corrupt practices being perpetrated in that institution can be nipped in the bud such that, you know, it can begin to serve the needs of the state, you know, more efficiently and more transparently?
Thank you very much. You know, we have levels of healthcare. We have the primary healthcare, we have the secondary healthcare for the state, and the tertiary, which is University College Hospital. So the State Ministry of Health, it's work together also with the University College Hospitals. Many a times when there's alleged of something not good, it's not actually the truth. It's when you get there, they'll be able to know what is going on. Even though I know that for healthcare workers, we have some attitudes too, which we are trying to work on, to say that approach and communication is very important, because at times you may come to the hospital, what I'm communicating to you at that particular instance, you are saying 6, whereas I'm saying 9. So there may be communication gap, really. But the so-called alleged situations that you hear or read are not actually the truth of the matter. Is when you get there, they'll be able to know that a lot of things have been done for that particular people before they now come. It may be because of maybe communication gap, or they want things that at that time the facility is not able to provide. But sincerely, the University College Hospital, the State Ministry of Health, and even the Oyo State as a whole, we work hand in hand. There are some of our cases that we can't manage at the secondary healthcare level, that we have to refer to them, and they take it. They help us to see them by the virtue of the specialists that they have. So some of these things that you hear or read on media are not exactly the truth. That's what I will say for that. But for the state and the federal, the University College Hospital, we work hand in hand. Their consultants come to our secondary healthcare facilities to train our residents and to offer one form of surgery or the other for us. We have them that are working in the state as well, like a kind of giving back to the community.
All right, Dr. Oluwaseremi Ajetumobi, Commissioner for Health, Oyo State. Thank you so much for coming on the program, madam.
Thank you, and good morning.
Absolutely. When we come back after this break, we'll talk that GMO thing, that debate about GMO. We'll find out details of this and how safe it is for all of us right here, or whether or not it is safe. That's a question we intend to answer when we come back. Join us again.
Well, we're getting into that big debate about GMOs, genetically modified organisms. You recall the recent approval of maize seed for planting and the rest. That has gotten a lot of people talking, and then they realize that, oh, it's not just that, there's a lot more. But then there's been a lot of back and forth. Well, it's good, it's the way forward. This reduces, you know, the prevalence of, you know what? Let me just hold my horses and invite the expert here on the show this morning. We're joined by Professor Celestine Agworu, President, Nigeria Biotech and Biosafety Consortium, Dean, College of Biological Sciences, Federal University of Agriculture, Benue State. Joins us live from our Kano studio. Good morning, Prof. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on Morning Brief.
Well, great to have you. I was going to get into all of the controversies, but then I just reminded myself, you're not the expert here. Let us speak with the expert. So GMO, that is a buzz term that gets a lot of people worried, because they hear GMO, and naturally you think of all of the extreme cases. Wait a minute, this is not real in some sense. There's been some modification of what I am putting into my body, and people have tagged it as causing cancer, you know, some genetic issues and the rest. So let's just start from the basics. What are GMOs? Why do we have GMOs in the first place? Why don't we just leave our plants and our foods the way God created them?
Oh, thank you very much.
Just go ahead.
Genetically modified organisms are organisms equipped with what ordinarily they shouldn't have, to be able to survive adverse conditions or improve their quality. Genetic engineering is not applied to only agriculture. It's applied to, there's environmental biotech. That is, genetic engineering is called the modern biotechnology. There's the environmental biotechnology, the health biotechnology, and then the agricultural biotechnology. Now, I guess that some of you in the studio, they would have taken the alpha interferon hepatitis B vaccine. And some who may be diabetic are also taking insulin. All of them are products of genetic engineering. And so there's no much debate about that. Where we have a lot of debate is on agricultural biotechnology. And how do that come in? A lot of people today even go ahead to call the normal hybrids that we have, which came in through the traditional breeding processes. Because of the way the products look, they call it GMOs. No, they are not. The moment you see that, you know that the person is ignorant. By the way, the Nigeria Biotechnology and Biosafety Consortium is a consortium of experts in the area of biotechnology and in the area of biosafety. And we came into being so that any person who is confused, who has a question, should be able to approach us, and we give clear and accurate information on any product of genetic engineering that the person is in doubt of. Now, there is this debate from the beginning about GMO, because possibly the first set were genetically engineered to survive application of pesticides. But it's not only that. An organism could be engineered to survive pesticides, resist pests. Where that is done, you will not need to apply the pesticides that you needed ordinarily to protect that plant. You can engineer to take care of micro-hunger by improving the quality of the crop. And this is usually done by experts. They are not done. Now, I can see the picture that you have on your television. The moment you see someone carrying a needle and then holding a plant and injecting something into it and say that is how GMOs are produced, you know that the person does not actually know the procedures and the person is ignorant. And for us as experts, we started from around 2012 when we held the first conference in Benue, calling the attention of government that the world is leaving us behind. We need a specialist regulatory body to look at issues of biosafety and biosecurity for Nigeria, which GMOs are part of. And we are grateful to the then governor of Benue State, His Excellency Right Honorable Dr. Gabriel Towa-Soswan, who provided the funds. We held that, and then we made a call to the government. Little did we know that even the biosafety unit of the Federal Ministry of Environment was also making efforts for it to be transformed to an agency, which we have today, that is regulating the practice of modern biotechnology in Nigeria. And we are here. I can assure you that there is no link between any genetically modified crop and cancer or any of those things that people are raising. This is a specialist area. It's not an area where people with tangential knowledge should be recruited into to begin to propagate things that are not real. We have enough
if I may button,
qualified experts in this country who are into research, not just here, including Nigerians in the diaspora.
If I may button,
we have two expert societies in Nigeria, the Biotechnology Society of Nigeria and the Genetic Society of Nigeria. We have critical mass of experts, in these two societies, that if any person is in doubt, will
Prof, if I may
call from those places. In Nigerian universities, we have experts too. In my own university, we have a sequencing laboratory, and we are training people there.
All right, Prof, if you can hear me, if I may button, Prof, if you can hear me.
Foreign genes in any organism.
All right, you had mentioned that there is no proof and all of that, but we've heard scientists say that no matter how well-intended a drug is, let me use the word drug. The reason I use that word drug is based on chemicals now used to produce drugs. Even if it's pain relievers and all of that, it still has side effects. So it's difficult to understand and accept, even for lay people, that an organism or a plant or a crop will be genetically modified and there are no effects. Is it really true that there are no effects?
As I speak to you now, there is no such effect. Now, this modification that we are talking about is not that you pick a chemical and inject into a crop. What is it? I am breeding a plant, whether traditionally through the classical breeding or through molecular breeding. Let's take, for instance, the cowpea, which first generated all the issues that we have. Cowpeas has been bred to resist striga, the weed striga, through molecular means. Then the maruca that was affecting it. Every effort has been made to deal with it, including the use of chemicals, and it was not working. And then scientists, having understood what DNA is, that modifying the genetic makeup could make that plant to resist the maruca that affects it. That was done. And it's like any other plant. The first thing that is tested is the gene of insert. Does it have any negative effect on this plant? That is checked and confirmed no. The protein which helps the plant to resist the maruca pest, does it have any side effect? Is it allogenic? All those tests are done from beginning to the end. And then the food quality is compared with the one that has not been genetically engineered. And when this is done, it is even put back for the traditional classical breeders to monitor the agronomic traits before it gets to the point of commercialization. Now, what happens if you were using 10 liters of pesticide to control maruca? The moment you use the genetically modified one, which could now resist the pest, you use less than a liter or 1 liter of it. That protects the environment. So I don't know where this fear is coming from.
Prof,
in fact,
I'm wondering whether if this lack of link between GMOs to cancer and all the other concerns is really due to evidence suggesting that there is none, or lack of evidence because the players in the industry have refused to embark on that search for evidence because of the potential for commerce that they can benefit from. But do you also, I'd like you to respond to that, and do you also rule out worries published by health websites about, the possibility of allergies due to the consumption of genetically modified organisms, because you are consuming something which DNA has been altered? Apart from that, a loss of harvest because GMO crops are resistant to herbicides, and all the other worries as well in that mix. There's also, the potential damage of GMOs to honeybees.
No. Now, that is part of what is checked. Does the gene of insert and the protein synthesized at the end of the day, do they affect non-target organisms? All these are taken care of before any person could think of bringing out any product of genetic engineering. Now, like I said, there is no link. We are searching for the link also, and there is none as we speak today between GMOs and the cancer that people talk about. There's no such evidence. Secondly, the moment if a crop is genetically modified to resist a pest or a disease, you no longer need to apply the pesticide that originally you used to. And that reduces the pesticide residue there, that reduces the pesticide that you put into the environment. But it seems that people have refused to ask questions at the proper place. That look, genetic engineering does not modify crops only to resist pesticides. If that is the target, yes, the crop will be modified to resist pesticides. But if that is not the target, it's targeted as at a pest, it will be modified to resist the pest. You no longer need the chemical with which you treat the plant against the pest. The plant in itself takes care of that pesticide. And all these things are tested to make sure that there's no link, it's not allergic. Now, if you take the cowpea, for example, what we know as beans, there are people that if they eat beans, the one that we have here, they have flatulence, they have this gas in their tummy and all that. That allergy is not because of the plant is genetically modified. That has been there. When you modify to resist a pest, the first and one of the tests that must be done is to make sure that the genetic modification does not increase that in the product of the GMO. And so all that are done. And if we have questions, the experts should be asked, and we give the information as necessary. The experts are Nigerians, except if what we are saying is, let Nigeria fold her hands, wait, when the other part of the world finish, we will go and join them. And I'm not sure there's any nation that develops that way. That we must, as experts, we must task ourselves why God gives us the opportunity to stay here, to make our own contributions, improve what we have around, right, and be able to leave a legacy.
Okay, Prof.
And so the issue of GMOs causing cancer, causing this, causing that, if a chemical that you applied in a farm causes cancer, and you have a process to make sure that that chemical is no longer applied, have you not saved the situation of using the chemical that causes problems?
All right, Prof, let me bring in this other scenario. Let me bring you this other scenario. So you've spoken quite well for the cause of GMOs. But what has also been said is another side I'd like you to speak to. So while we are modifying, the organisms, the fruits, and the rest, the pests and the diseases are also getting some modification. So once they realize that they're not able to infect or affect a certain crop or disease, you know how it works with evolution, right? They try to evolve. So it's been said that we're actually now creating a new set of pests, diseases, and I mean, how far would we go? So essentially, we're creating new problems for ourselves. How do you speak to that?
Well, let me get to that. Crop improvement, just like in any other sector of life, is a continuous thing. Now, there are crops that we have bred. Look at I saw a picture of banana and plantain. The original one that we had seeds in it. They are still there at the stations that have the mandate. Like if you go to the banana and plantain improvement station at One, you will still see those ones. Through the traditional breeding, through molecular breeding, we're able to remove the seeds. Are you getting that? It's a continuous process. And the high-yielding ones also. Now, the issue of survival by organisms, which human being is a part of, is a natural instinct. And as that happens, scientists who also study the process will continue to provide means of dealing with them. So that has not started with GMOs alone. Even the traditional hybrids that we have, when you breed them to resist those organisms, they also go on to find a way, because they are living things, they will find a way of surviving. And scientists are working day in, day out to make sure that those things are dealt with. And so, if genetic modification or genetic engineering as a means of crop improvement is one of the means, it's not the only one. It's where other means have failed, scientists get to that point. Now, as that goes on, scientists will be working to improve on them to make sure that our yield gains are there. And look at the population of Nigeria today. There were other issues that people raised about the seeds of GMO and all the rest of them, that the people who developed them are the ones who are going to control the supply of the seeds. Those things are conspiracy theories. The seed companies in Nigeria are the ones that are producing that. Okay? We can give you names. You look for them. You go to their factories. You go to their farms where they do all that. And they sell to Nigerians. It's a local thing. And so now you have our hybrids. People look at them. What is on your screen now is the sesame. So, we don't have any GMO of it. It's hybrid. And so as that happens, we also work to improve the hybrids that we have.
Prof, are you saying, by all the explanations that you're giving and all your submissions this morning, Nigerians, and indeed all of us that are concerned, should not be worried about the future of GMOs on agricultural products?
Not at all. We don't need such worries as are being propagated. Those are conspiracy theories.
Prof,
okay.
I'm going to ask you one question, and I'd like a yes or no answer to it. If given a choice, would you consume organically grown food or a genetically modified food? Fine. Which would you choose?
Now, let me explain to you. And that is where...
Prof, I want a yes or no answer to that question.
No. Let me explain to you what an organically grown food is, because you can grow GMO organically. That is where the misunderstanding and the wrong information is being passed. And the truth is that is where I want Nigerians to understand what is organically grown food. You can grow our normal hybrid organically. You can grow GMOs organically. And what is it? It's a system of growing crops where you do not apply any synthetic chemical to it. If it's in terms of manure, you use waste materials, animal or plants, as your manure, or biological-based manures or protective agents. Now, GMO as a seed, you can plant it and grow it organically. The normal hybrid, you can plant it and grow it organically. But the conspiracy theorists who do not have this information will come and talk as if a genetically modified organism has become an extraterrestrial organism that cannot, be grown like any other crop.
But still,
So I will eat, I'm coming, a GMO that was grown with fertilizer, just like the normal hybrid that is grown with fertilizer. I will eat GMO that is grown with the application of pesticide, just like eating the normal hybrid that you apply pesticides to. Any person who tells you that GMO cannot be grown organically is ignorant.
So if given an organically grown food or a GMO that is organically grown, which would you choose?
I will choose the one that is available. If it's GMO that is available, I'll choose.
Well, that's not the answer to my question,
And
Prof.
if you give me the two of them,
let me now follow up.
Let me tell you.
Let me follow up, Prof. If you would allow me.
I will take the GMO.
Let me follow up if you would allow me. Despite your argument and the argument of so many advocates for the growing of genetically modified food crops, in the global north, in
Sorry,
shops...
Let me get you, please.
Yeah. Despite the argument that you put forward and the similar ones put forward by other advocates for GMOs, in Western countries, there is, standardization to the effect that food crops that are genetically modified are labeled. Would that also be, should Nigeria also be towing that path now that it is allowing genetically modified food crops into our, agricultural development, to give Nigerians a choice about whether or not they would consume GMOs or they would choose organically grown foods?
Even the National Biosafety Management Agency has a regulation on that. And that is what the experts are talking about. We have a specialist agency that regulates the practice of this, whether look at all the safety features. There is a regulation on that. If that agency that Nigeria has set up, which we should trust, decides to say, look, if you have an oil, because we are talking as if these foods are not processed. If you have an oil that you get from a crop that is genetically modified in your biscuit, label the biscuit as having part of its component as GMO, so be it. So be it.
Prof, as we're beginning to wind down, Prof, just a quick question. Are the scientists like you considering, in these modifications that we're talking about, helping to reduce the prevalence or escalation of certain diseases in the human body organically? Is that part of the conversation?
Reducing what? I didn't get that.
You know, certain foods, certain things predispose people. Is there a way these GMOs can also help to reduce this predisposition of human bodies through the modification that is done on agricultural products so that we don't have maybe the prevalence of certain kinds of diseases? I'm just broadly asking that question since you guys believe in it a lot and you're working hard to make sure that we get as much value as far as GMOs are concerned. Because at the end of the day, Africa is burdened with disease, and if there's a modification that can help reduce that prevalence or reduce the predisposition, I think it's welcome. Is that conversation on the table?
Yes, that conversation is on the table. I've mentioned its application in medicine and health, which nobody is arguing about. Now, there is the issue of the micro-hunger. Micro-hunger, which some of the available food we have do not have certain nutrients. If our crops are engineered to be able to generate those nutrients, especially the ones that are easily available, which could deal with those micro-hunger, that discussion is on the table, and it is welcomed. And scientists are working towards that. You see, let me make this point, since you say we're winding down. Science is not voodoo. Science is not magic. For those who come up, you know, who don't have knowledge of what we are discussing, who have tangential knowledge, or what I may call pedestrian, in the area, jumping in to make far-reaching statements is actually unnecessary.
Right.
They are not helping Nigerians. Science of genetic engineering is not what you learn in 24 hours. Or you just go and pick one textbook and say I have become a biotechnologist.
Well, Prof.
People went through training, look at the safety lines. For me, as far back as 2012, to say, look, the issue of genetic engineering cannot be regulated by a body like NAFDAC, SON, and all the rest of them.
Right.
That Nigeria requires a specialist body made up of experts to be able to deal with that.
We have to run now, and that's why we brought you. You're an expert to really walk us through. Expert knowledge is very vital. But just quickly, you know, when you bite an apple and it changes color, does that mean it's GMO? Because that has been trending as well.
Not at all.
Okay, so I'm just going to continue with my apple.
If you pick your local guava and bite it, some of them, if you keep them, they change color.
Thank you very much.
If you cut your banana and keep it, it changes color.
Okay.
So how does the color change? Because you have opened the fruit and you expose it and the air is touching part of the fruit.
So that's a natural chemical reaction. And the seedless ones,
exactly.
What about the seedless apples? Obviously, they are GMOs, right?
I mentioned from the beginning here that we have bred our own banana, even to become seedless.
Okay.
Some of our, what is it called now, watermelon, we have bred them here, not through GMO, to become seedless.
Okay.
And so why do we tag anything we say hybrid to be GMO?
So it is safe to say at this point that literally everyone is eating some sort of GMO. It's just the level now that we are having a debate about. But Prof, you've provided a lot of clarity, and we must thank you for that. Professor Celestine Agworu, President, Nigeria Biotech and Biosafety Consortium, also Dean College of Biological Sciences, Federal University of Agriculture, Benue State, joining us from our Kano studio. Thank you so much for your time on the show. I'll, of course, go back to my apple right now.
Thank you very much. Please eat your apple and leave conspiracy theories.
I will. I bought it with my hard-earned money. Oh, we'll go to break now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to, well, Nollywood. We have one of the rising stars, you may say, joining us in just a few moments. You don't want to miss this. So stay with us while I have my apple.
Welcome back to the Morning Brief, and we're switching gears now to the softer side of things as we look at the creative space, which is expansive, and Nigerians are taking up space, you know, with all of the opportunities that abound. One of such joins us on the program today. Let's welcome Michael Ifeanyi. He's not just an actor, he's a singer, songwriter, content creator. You're also a historian, you know, from your bio. Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
And, you know, one of the efforts that has shot you into limelight is your appearance on Tinsel.
Yes,
right?
thank you, yes.
Okay, so we warned earlier that even though he looks genetically modified, he's not. Yeah.
Wow,
that's
shots
a reference
fired.
to your good looks, by the way.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
let's start with your journey. Talk us through how you started and how you got your big break.
Okay, so I started first as a runway model. Yeah, I used to come from school down to Lagos.
What school?
I attended Olabisi Onabanjo University.
Ah,
I
nice.
studied international relations.
Beautiful.
Yes, so I used to come from school weekends to come work as a model. So yeah, I finished school and I had a thing for acting and I went into it. I always wanted to see myself on the big screen. So that's really been my dream. And then I got into Tinsel. Okay, I think I started with commercial modeling after school, and then I got into Tinsel. And it's just been amazing so far.
So how would you like to describe yourself? Some people don't like to be boxed. We've had people that don't call me an actor, don't call me this, don't call me that. So we have a lot about you're a model, you're an actor, you're a chef, right?
Yes.
What are you not exactly? So how do you want to describe yourself?
I'm an entertainer.
Right.
Yeah, I enjoy everything that has to do with entertainment. You know, from voiceover to acting to writing music, you know, being on the stage singing as well. So yeah.
Okay, there you go. So these are your images from modeling. I kind of like this. You know, there's this saying where I'm from that there are lots of routes to the market.
True.
Right, so I think that's what you're doing. So you get to the market in some way. If it's not through acting, it's through modeling or
yeah.
chef and all of that. I understand you have a business.
Yes.
Around.
Yeah, that's Uptown Grills.
Fantastic. So it looks like you're made literally for the future. But I'd like to go to one of your strong points, which is acting. Right, and I think you're big on that. Recently, we saw perhaps behind the scenes. Yes. Of acting. You know, it's one thing we see on the screens. You're on Tinsel, for example, and we know how Tinsel is. You think everybody on Tinsel is a billionaire.
True.
They're doing well, but that's not usually the reality behind the scenes, particularly with what we saw playing out in the past few weeks. You know, a lot of, you know, things being thrown at producers saying they don't have enough budget, they treat actors anyhow, and, you know, all of that debate. I don't want to get into it because it's really sad when you go deep down. So just about your experience in the movie industry, have you come across Akagom producers? What's the term? Have you been treated unfairly? Because it's important to speak to these things such that everybody's aware and we can work with the sector.
True. Okay, well, I'll just say this. Right now, the Nollywood industry, we're really trying, you know, because now we have movies that are hitting the cinemas, Netflix movies. But, you know, when I first started, and with the way things are, like with some couple of productions, some people don't want to spend money on productions. You know, they're looking for a low budget, you know, looking for the ways they'll cut costs, you know, and they're looking for people to bring in their best. And that is not possible. You know, when you're bringing people on set and you're not providing food. I've gotten to hear a couple of stuff from people telling me, you know, they came on this production, they weren't served food, you know, they're being paid penny, their transportation too, and all that stuff. So it's really crazy, and I just think that's just the country we're in, you know. But I feel like they can do better. You know, instead of different people to want to do production, everybody can come together and shoot a good movie.
Right.
That way everybody is getting paid properly and people are being valued.
Sort of pull together and have a cooperative, right?
Yes.
Is this a problem of standardization? Or this is people just trying to see The industry is getting bigger, so people are trying to game the system. What exactly is the problem here?
I think it's everybody just wants to benefit from it. You know, nobody really wants to work together. You know, everybody wants to do their own thing. You see some people wanting to shoot a YouTube movie, just like the case of this young man that passed away. What's his name again? Junior Pope. You know, that production is definitely not a cinematic movie. You know, it's just like a YouTube kind of production and all that, and it cost him his life. You know, so I feel like if everybody could come together as a team, instead of people wanting to shoot their different productions, you know, we can be able to achieve more. People are being paid, you know, properly, the way it should be.
And just as a quick follow-up to that, is it a case of all that glitters is not gold, really? And, you know, I'm not specific about Nollywood here. And I ask this because of stories that are bound, particularly online, about people calling out those that they have worked with for not paying them, for not, you know, coming to their aid when they really needed them. Because, you know, when you see creatives, particularly because of the lifestyle they live, you would think that, oh, if they're not millionaires in single digits, that they're probably millionaires in double digits.
Sure. Okay, so the thing is, you know, there's a certain standard for an entertainer, you know, in everybody's head. You know, they feel like, okay, you should be driving so car, you should be, you know, living this kind of lifestyle. And everybody tries to portray that on the social media so, you know, they can get more audience, they can have more attention. So truly, not everything that glitters is gold, you know, but I feel like people shouldn't do that too much so it doesn't put them, you know, on the wrong scale.
So empower us with a startup toolkit if you want to succeed in this industry, because as we said earlier on, you seem to have, you're multifaceted, and that really helps. So you know your value across board. It's not just do or die. And that's when you find people doing things, they compromise because that's all they have. I just want to act. I want to make it as an actor. So if you were to give a prospective actor, model, chef, the list goes on and on, a startup toolkit, what would you tell them to have in mind? How would you tell them to build their psyche, build their person so they can succeed or at least be on the way to success?
Okay, so I feel like the first thing a person needs to really understand when you want to achieve your goal is to be true to yourself, you know, really understand what suits you, you know. Like for me, as an actor, I feel I'm a methodic actor, you know. So anytime I'm like handling my script, I always like to digest that character. So it's good to know what works with you and know what's best for you, you know, before you take that step.
Do you think, I'm curious, do you think that the industry is creating, I know it's operated by young people.
Sure.
Is it creating a safe space for young people in the future? And it's a bit of a technical question because what you are exposed to now is what you're going to give out tomorrow when you're in the ranks of Peter Edochie and all of those greats now. Are you guys providing enough safe space for people to really, you know, ventilate their thoughts and find true expression?
Well, I would say yes, and I would say no. Why I'm going to say yes is because the space gives room for you to express yourself. It gives room for you to be yourself, and you know, it gives room for the younger generation to, you know, express themselves. Now we have TikTok, we have, you know, different social media platforms where people can easily be reached. And like, I think there was a movie I did, I was reached out through my Instagram. You know, the producer saw me and he was like, "You're good." You know, he's seen my work, he wants me to be on this production. So I feel like social media is actually a good platform, you know, for the younger ones. But when it comes to production management, I found out that most people that have been in the game before are still the same people running this. It's more like the Nigerian
political scene.
Yes,
the old guard.
You know, so people from the previous just come back and they're always still running things, and everybody doesn't have a say.
What does that mean? There's a lot in between what you said. So what does that mean? Is there a problem with them coming, or there's something they are doing you feel you guys are not comfortable with?
I feel it's just the fact that people already are used to these people and they are always trying to fund. So nobody is really wanting to, just like I said, like it's best if everybody can come together and shoot one movie than trying to do their thing individually. So I feel like that's the reason why those people are still in power, because, you know, there's no room for the younger ones to really take charge and do what they want to do.
Well, I really like to follow up on that, but I can't resist the urge of this next question. Now, because of your looks, I take it that you're more often than not the guy that is cast for the romantic scenes, right? Now, do you see that, you know, as a problem of stereotyping, and you would rather do other roles, play other roles that help your creativity?
Okay, well, I know for a fact that when it comes to acting, I always want to be that main actor, not just for the romantic aspect, but, you know, maybe like a fight scene, you know, something that would challenge my character, you know. So I don't know why, but I don't want to be stereotyped like that, like, okay, he's a fine boy.
Typecasting, actually.
You said what?
Typecasting.
Typecasting. I don't want to be, you know, in that category, you know. I want to be challenged. You know, there was this time I went to a character school for a scene that I was supposed to do. So I feel like I can be able to, you know, push myself to that limit. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that though.
So do you experience typecasting?
Yes, a lot.
You want to be James Bond, but they are putting you as Ramsey Noah, right?
Every time.
Oh, you hear that a lot? People, they say you look like Ramsey Noah.
No, they say you're a fine boy, you know, you should be a lover boy, you should be this girl's boyfriend and all that, and I'm like...
Okay, quite interesting. Now that we're talking about casting, typecasting, stereotyping and the rest, would you play the role of a villain if you were given?
Yes.
You play the role of a villain?
Yes.
You know what they call improv, right?
Yes.
Improvising.
Improvise,
so
yes.
we should do some improv on the show this morning. I want to hear you as a villain. So the idea is,
oh my God.
You want to... I just want to hear you as a villain because I'm picturing you.
Somebody beats up your wife.
Yeah.
So that's the wife.
In the movie, and you're really angry. Like, you're coming with, it's either you die or I die.
That's the person that beat up your wife. That's your wife. Man, I'm just
There's going to be a dying somehow. Somebody's going to get injured. So what is it going to be?
What would be your favorite, you know, villain line?
This is me.
Okay. Back off. Come on.
Stay with
improv. It's okay. It's okay. Improv is good.
That one sounded like a romantic threat.
Like back off, else I'll use my cuteness to suffocate you.
Well, we know this is impromptu. We haven't given you time to get into character.
It's just part of the show, just to joke around. But speak to us really about. I really asked about the startup toolkit because I think it's important to have that mentality as someone starting in the industry. For some people, anything goes. In fact, the fact that it's theater, okay, it's not theater, Nollywood now, which is like a different version, means people just do anything. So you find people are loose with their bodies. Not everybody, and I think it's important to make that fact. Some people don't mind going to any extent, really, just to get those roles. So is there a universe in which we have a Nollywood that is really top-notch in terms of professionalism? Is there that possibility?
I feel like in the next 5 to 10 years, I feel Nollywood would be a much better place if people can work together as a team and not individually. You know, make add more value to the Nollywood industry, because already, literally, we are the biggest in Africa. Already, Nollywood is the biggest in Africa, same as our music industry as well. So I feel like we can be able to, if we can work together and people just stay true to themselves. Don't go after the job because, you know, you feel like you can do it. Go because you know you can do it. You know, don't go around sleeping with producers because they always promise you things that they can never ever give to you. At the end of the day, it's not even in their court, you know, to make such decisions. So just stay true to yourself and mind your business.
Right.
Yeah, you know, what I deduce from what you're saying is the way to creating real value is authenticity,
True.
not being anything less than who you are and what you are. And, you know, because of that, we'd like to, and so many other things for your
We should try out your grill, by the way, one of these days.
Thank you so much, Nollywood actor Michael Ifeanyi, for joining us. Actor, historian, model, singer, songwriter, chef.
Yes.
Next time you're going to be cooking something for us.
Definitely.
On the show.
I'm down.
And so this is where we touch down on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
I'm Jeffrey Zama. Bye-bye.
Don't forget, Sunrise Daily is next, so don't back off. I'm Kayode Okikile. Goodbye.